Welcome to the Temporary Insanity Podcast. Here are your hosts, Joshua Lewis Pereira, William McCoy, and Sierra Tanzi.
All right, happy Friday, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Temporary Insanity. I'm your host, Josh Pereira, and with me today, flying solo as our co-host, is Miss Sierra Tanzi. How you doing today, Miss Sierra?
I'm so good, and look at that, no will today. I upheld my promise, guys.
Ironically, it's funny because we put out the big post and I didn't tell Sierra that I was gonna record the phone call because I honestly didn't know what the reaction was gonna be when I called you, but a few weeks ago we had Sierra on the show, and after the show Sierra was like, I had a really good time. I'd love to come on the podcast and guest anytime, and then I invited her last week to come join us, and clearly last week before she came on the show, she started to make some comments about, hey, maybe I'll come for Will's seat.
It's the lore. It's the temporary insanity lore now.
And so last week she came on the show, and Will and I kind of sat down and talked for a few minutes. It felt really organic. I mean, I don't know, Sarah, how'd you feel last week talking on the show?
It was fun. Like, I'm not usually a huge talker unless it's something I'm confident about and passionate about. So I think the fact that there's a set topic, but I can kind of run with that topic a little bit.
Yeah, so I mean, it totally goes with the topic, temporary insanity. Having kind of we go into these topics and we have an idea of what the theme of the day is going to be, but I mean, it's literally the point to kind of bring an awareness of what's being talked about, while still kind of having the freedom to kind of have fun with it. I mean,
Well, I remember your dad came up to me on Sunday, I think, and was talking to me about it. And he said how he thinks it's going to be a lot more interesting with a third perspective, especially what you were telling me, one of a younger female as well. And I do think he has a little bit of a point with that. I'm still in college. I am a female.
Well, he also straight up told me that I am now officially the old man of the group. I mean, I'm only...
You are. You're 15 years older than me, John.
I mean, I'm only going to be 36 in a couple of weeks. So I mean, but it's you guys are not wrong. I mean, even last week when we were all talking about and having our discussion, you and Will kind of went off on a little tangent about some TikTok fads and stuff like that, and I was I'm not gonna lie, I was completely clueless, but it was really fun. Now, to be fair, and to give a full disclaimer to our fans out there, William did not drop off from the podcast.
Fired.
He is apparently taking this crazy exam today that required him to miss recording time. So he tried his best to be here, but apparently there's a monster writing section of it. So we're rooting him and cheering him along. But it was also kind of nice because this is Sierra's first official Temporary Insanity co-host seat. And going back to what I was saying,
I just want Will to know I'm sitting in your chair.
She is, and if you're watching behind the scenes video, you can see her sitting in the co-pilot's chair here.
Sitting in the chair.
But for those of you listening, if you didn't see the post, so I started to say when we started the conversation just a few moments ago that I did not know how that reaction was going to be, and I'm going to tell you, Sierra, that reaction was priceless.
Well, it's one of those. I love Will. I would never purposely try to take his spot. I was completely 100% joking and 100% just expecting to come on here and there when the topic pertained to me. When I got the call, I was literally at work. I had to step outside because I was like, well, Josh is calling me. Usually he just texts me. So I stepped outside. So I was just in outside my workplace, just what just happened?
Well, so I took a chance. I have the recording app on my phone for when I deal with certain client calls and stuff like that for the business. So I thought to myself, Josh, and it was literally one of those last minute things. I was on probably the second ring of the call, and I was I should probably record this just in case I get something priceless. I was really glad that my instinct said hit the record button because I figured if it was garbage recording, like if you were like, this, I don't want to do none of that. Like, but, and then, so for those of you who didn't see our post, go to our social media pages. It's literally on all of them. I have it on.
It's on TikTok.
It's even on TikTok, right? Facebook, Instagram, TikTok.
You tagged my TikTok that I don't even use.
Well, now you're gonna be like a personality here. So
I'm gonna make like behind the scenes of a podcast co-host videos.
So yeah, check it out. I mean, but it is absolutely priceless because at first I could tell you were very confused. I'm like, Sierra, this is
I was
the call.
so confused. I was like, what call? This could mean so many things.
I'm like, the call, Sierra. What's the call?
Well, when you said the call, I thought it was pertaining to like Ethan's dedication. I was like, what do you need from me?
Well, which was another great, awesome, a momentous occasion this week. We had Ethan's baby dedication on Sunday. So I mean, this has been an awesome week for Miss Sierra, and honestly, we've been excited. I mean, we've been excited this week as we have gotten to celebrate with Sierra on a few different things. So I mean, Sierra, you are officially on today as our co-host. And then, I'm gonna miss Will today, I know for sure, and I know a lot of you guys who have messaged us and said you love listening to the smooth baritone voice of William McCoy.
I am very sad he's missing this episode. It's a fun one.
But at the same time, I think it'll be cool to have an episode where Miss Sierra gets to kind of carry some, some real co-host vibes here.
I did research. I did a lot of research. I started my research at Monday at like 11 p.m.
We call that in the business show prep, right? So I mean, honestly, like people don't realize this is like a little job. To get ready for these shows is no joke because I mean we want to give our listeners some great content, which leads us to today's discussion. To be completely honest, we came to realize that the World Wide Web, hence why it's called the World Wide Web and not the Rhode Island Web, goes far and wide. And what happens is not a lot of people understand some of our references because we're from a little state in the United States of America called Rhode Island.
It's weird. We're kind of weird.
Yeah, and quite frankly, what I get a lot of is people think we're part of New York. They think we're Long Island.
Long Island.
We are not part of Long Island. We are a little state, also known as Little Rhody. So today's episode is affectionately entitled Little Rhody. And the goal for today is to kind of share with you some background on our little state of Rhode Island and to kind of make a statement so that when you're listening to our podcast, some of the things we might talk about, like last week, my girl was a little triggered by some college rivalry. Yes, we are a small state, but we have
so many.
So many colleges.
Like URI, Rick, PC,
Bryant, RISD,
RISD,
Johnston and Wales,
Johnston Wales, URI. I already said URI. J Woo.
Yeah, I just said Johnston and Wales.
What's the one I'm looking for? R Woo. There it is. Roger Williams.
Roger Williams. Yeah. I mean, so. I mean, we had, and that's only like to name a few. That's not even to mention like the technical schools that we have.
Bryant, which closed down. Was Bryant Massachusetts?
No, Bryant's still here. We have New England Tech.
Becker closed down.
Yeah, Becker closed down. New England Tech. I mean,
many.
We have a crazy amount of colleges in such a small state. So I mean, we have some terminology that you might hear us like. We might say something's wicked cool. That's kind of like a Boston and Rhode Island thing. So I mean. One of the things we want to do is we want to kind of talk about our state a little bit today, and kind of talk about how we may be small, but we are still, pretty awesome.
Mighty. Weird. So, like when I hear Little Rhody, it reminds me of like we're one of the oldest, but at the same time, like the younger brother of all the states.
I mean, you're absolutely right, though. I mean, quite frankly, I mean, we're like the kid brother.
We're overlooked, like. Like, Rhode Island's just over there doing their thing. Like, pat on the head. Good job.
Yeah. The other states like to bully us, I mean, let's be honest, though. I mean, it's kind of our fault, too, because, like, quite frankly, like, we sit, like, under Massachusetts, like, literally, like, tucked under, like, we cut into Massachusetts. So, pretty much, like...
We also don't care, like,
right.
That much. We're, like, that legal. Go ahead. Do it.
Either that or we're, like... Wait a second, we're not sure what we want to do here. What did Massachusetts just do? Oh, yeah, we'll do that, too. That's cool. Hey, Mass, you did that. All right, big bro.
Close enough. Sounds good.
So let's dive into some Rhode Island stuff. Why don't we start off with some cool foundational facts, and then we're going to go into, like, Rhode Island novelties, we can call them, because Cece, like, she got like all the cool stuff that is very weird, because a lot of this stuff is gonna be called like not Rhode Island name, but it's like Rhode Island things that only Rhode Islanders do. So all right, so let's start off with some Rhode Island stuff. So some cool facts and trivia, I call it. Rhode Island is the smallest state in size in the United States. We say that it's the smallest state in size because we are like the clown car of states. We are tiny, like a little Volkswagen Bug, but it's like those clown cars where out of that Volkswagen Bug comes out like 50 people.
So on estimate, we're like 48 miles long and 37 miles wide, which I read that on that history.com that you sent me, and I was just like, my God. That's
We're tiny. We're tiny. We are literally a clown car.
I think I remember reading that you can like drive across Rhode Island in like an hour.
Oh yeah, well listen, as somebody who drives across Rhode Island all the time, because a part of the business, with especially in the construction business that we own, it's all about estimates, right?
Yeah.
So without traffic, you can drive across the state fairly rapidly. I mean, we do jobs all across the state. I mean, the problem with Rhode Island is we have notoriously a reputation for not knowing how to drive. So we have a lot of traffic, and
unless you're looking for the welcome to like insert state here sign, you're not gonna know where it begins and where it ends.
Sometimes you blink, you miss it.
So,
yeah. Wait. We went through Rhode Island. I went from Massachusetts to Connecticut, just
it's
like that.
Like when Justin and I take our like Virginia trips, it's like already out of Rhode Island. It's been 20 minutes.
That's also why we're the most impatient drivers. We're like, wait, it's going to take more than 20 minutes to get there?
You mean to tell me it takes nearly 2 hours to drive through Connecticut?
Like we were starting to say just a minute ago, Rhode Island was the last of the original 13 colonies to become a state. So we are literally the baby sibling. We are the little brother. We share a water border with New York. So we share a border with New York. We share a border with Massachusetts. We share a border with Connecticut. We are kind of like by default like part of Massachusetts. Most people kind of like associate us with because we do pretty much everything Massachusetts does. All right, let's see something else that's cool. The Cogswell Tower in Central Falls. Central Falls is like probably the smallest city in the state of Rhode Island. So it's the smallest city in the smallest state. It was the site of an Indian observation point in use during King Philip's War in 1676. The tower was built in 1904 as part of the last will and testament of Caroline Cogswell. I just thought that would be cool because Will is a proud Native American, so I like to throw some Native American history in there. Here's a cool thing. Rhode Islanders like to drink, apparently. I don't say it's a cool thing in that perspective, but one thing that's kind of crazy is that Rhode Island never ratified the 18th Amendment prohibition.
Yeah, and like we were talking about like before we started recording, on the other hand, it's illegal to sell alcohol in grocery stores. So it's like we can't make up our minds.
Right. I mean, you're going to find out as we talk about Rhode Island that we're kind of all over the place. I mean, we kind of, we're still trying to figure it out. So we never ratified prohibition, but yet, to buy alcohol in the state of Rhode Island, unlike other states where you can, buy it at the same time as at the grocery store, you have to leave the grocery store.
Some eggs and whiskey, baby.
Yeah, you have to leave the grocery store and drive to a liquor store, right?
Which are not open on Sundays.
Right. Judge Darius Baker imposed the first jail sentence for speeding in an automobile in August 28th, 1904 in Newport.
Speaking of automobiles, do you know in Rhode Island it's illegal? There is an actual law that says this. It is illegal to race a horse down a highway.
That would be a sight for sore eyes.
Yeah, because it's legal, so you'll never see it.
You know,
I'm assuming it's a law because we just have horses walking around in Providence sometimes. I'm assuming that's why it's a law, but like...
But again, like, we just don't know what we want. And that's the other thing
Do we
that
want
you'll notice.
horses, or are you going to make them illegal to go on the highway?
I mean, Providence is like one of the most densely populated cities, and like we still have like I guess New York has too, but we have like mounted police and stuff like that. But Rhode Island, you have like everything from like the urban life to you go down to like the South County, and you go out to like Foster and stuff, and we have like really like countryside. Like we have such an array here. We don't know what we want, but let's see. Polo was played here for the first time in the United States. So Rhode Island was the first state to have polo played in 1876.
We just love horses.
We do.
Love 'em.
We're very equestrian. Let me see. Rhode Island was the home for the first national lawn tennis championship. Now, this was kind of weird to me. The precursor was the U.S. Open in 1881. It was held at the Newport Casino. Casinos are very weird in Rhode Island. We just finally, in the past, couple of years, were able to have table games, in recent history, and the casinos. Before, our casinos were just slot machines and bingo. But we've had casinos since like forever. But that's what I didn't realize you played tennis on grass.
On grass?
Yeah, that's what I just said. The National Lawn Tennis. I mean, if you go to the Tennis Hall of Fame in Newport, like they play on grass.
I've never seen that before.
I mean,
I always see it on a court.
I could be mistaken. I mean,
if it says it, then.
Yeah.
Wait, isn't there a different kind of tennis? Isn't lawn tennis and regular tennis different?
Maybe.
I don't know. I almost joined the tennis team in high school and then said, never mind.
I tried. I was also like almost like.
Why do you make women wear skirts?
Well,
that's what I don't understand.
Could be worse.
I mean,
They can
I
make the
don't
guys
think
wear skirts.
anything could be worse than wearing a skirt in a sport.
Imagine playing Scottish tennis
In a kilt?
in a kilt. Too much running around for me. Let's see. St. Mary's, Rhode Island's oldest Roman Catholic parish. Was founded in 1828. Their church is best known as the site of the wedding of Jacqueline Bouvier and John Fitzgerald Kennedy in 1953. The Kennedys got married here. Yeah, JFK. We all know they had their Newport.
Newport wedding.
Yeah. Let's see. The state was the home to the first open golf tournament. The event occurred in 1895. Rhode Island has no county government. It is divided into 39 municipalities, each having its own form of local government. So, unlike a lot of states, we have individual municipal governments versus a lot of places they do it by county or district.
So I like calling Rhode Island the rebel state because if you go taking it back to history a little bit, everything Rhode Island does is I'm good. So when they refused to participate in the Constitution, literally the only of the 13, that was I'm good.
Well, I mean, don't forget Roger Williams, and we're going to talk about him in just a minute. But I mean, Roger Williams was kind of he kind of founded the state because he was a separatist.
So Rhode Island itself refused the Constitution. Was the first was the first colony to basically abandon England and say no, we're good. To renounce allegiance is the actual phrasing I'm looking for here, and they are also the first state to abolish slavery as well. So Rhode Island is literally just the rebel state.
We were.
We are literally the teenage child of the country.
And we were the first to do a lot of awesome things. For instance, anybody going to the carousel? I mean, you have a baby now. Has Mr. Baby been on the carousel yet?
No, because when the carousel was open, he was still really young, and the carousel is closed during the winter.
Oh, so I can't wait to see it. So, I mean, we're going to see if he enjoys it. I mean, I know I
live right down the street from the carousel.
One of our oldest, by the way, but the Flying Horse Carousel is the nation's oldest carousel located in the resort town of Watch Hill. The first circus in the United States. I don't know, clowns kind of freak me out a little bit.
I don't like clowns.
But for those of you who love the circus, the first circus in the United States was in Newport in 1774. I don't know if you remember this year. It might be before your time. But Ann and Hope was the first discount department store in the United States. And the property was opened and started here in the good old state of Rhode Island.
I do know Ann and Hope, but I did not know that.
My mom used to love the Ann and Hope layaway plan because, we grew up in a modest home. So, I mean, Ann and Hope was the spot. I mean, we would start putting things on layaway in January for Christmas. And
Isn't Ann and Hope that's Home Goods?
Well, as of late they were, but in their heyday they were like a souped up Walmart. They were all kinds of. So you had clothes and toys. I mean, you literally bought everything at Ann and Hope.
It's what is that store? I don't know if the store Kmart.
Pretty much, yeah, kind of like a Kmart.
Does Kmart still exist?
That is a very fair question. I have no idea. I think we're gonna have to investigate this.
I don't know if Kmart still exists.
back to tennis. Rhode Island is home to the Tennis Hall of Fame. One of my former employees used to work there. I think he went back to work
Dude.
there. Here's a fun
I would have
one.
never guessed. I would have guessed like something to do on the water,
Well,
like kayaking.
the Tennis Hall of Fame is in Newport, so I mean, I guess it's kind of on the
Like
water. Apparently, Rhode Island really likes tennis.
Um,
Let's see. George M. Cohen was born in Providence in 1878. He wrote, "I'm a Yankee Doodle Dandy, and you're a grand old flag," and a wide variety of other musical entertainment, which every elementary school still sings till this day.
Very annoyingly. May I add.
Apparently, we're known for making silverware and fine jewelry. I'm not going to read on Sierra's parade, so I'm going to skip this next one. It talks about our friend on 95 there. Let's see. Oh, Rhode Islanders were the first to take military action against England by sinking one of her ships in the Narragansett Bay, located between Newport and Providence. The English ship was called the Gaspee, and if you go to Warwick during Gaspee days, Warwick is obsessed. They have and listen to all you Warwick people. I have family there. Listen, we got Gaspians. I don't know what you Gaspee people call yourselves there, but I mean the Gaspee days. They have this whole shebang down there.
We also have the mansions in Newport, which Gatsby's mansion was based off of.
Yeah, and which till this day is like a huge tour. I mean, that's the other thing too. We take for granted in Rhode Island, because we live here. So we take for granted because we live here how much tourism
I've
we
actually
get.
never been on the Newport mansion tours before.
Well, that's because you were born here.
Well, I was supposed to go in my junior year of high school, but then COVID happened.
Well, COVID shut down the mansions.
But then I'm like, well, maybe I'll go for my birthday one year, but my birthday's in winter and it's freezing in Newport.
I mean, one of the coolest things we did in one of the mansions was, your parents, your aunt and uncle took my wife and I to a murder mystery at the mansions. And
Sounds so cool.
it was fantastic. Actually, your Uncle Jeff was pulled, because it was one of those things where they pull some of the people into so your Uncle Jeff was pulled into the drama. He became
So
a character.
I would love that.
Yes, I would. I don't know how I'd feel about being pulled into it, because I don't know. I'd get a little anxious.
It's like a more advanced escape room.
Right, but it was super cool. It was super cool, and we had to find clues and interview people, and they did this whole shebang at the end. It was fantastic, and also we had a great meal that night, because across the street from the mansion was a super nice restaurant, and we had a great time. But yeah, I mean, we take it for granted. We don't think of Newport.
Oh yeah,
as,
people come here and it's like, that's so cool, and I was like, it's just another Thursday for me. What are you talking about?
Well, think about it. We live so close to the ocean. We take everything. We talk. When I went to Las Vegas last November, I didn't realize how the majority of the country doesn't live next to the water. So we take
really
our seafood
ironic.
for granted.
We live
and all
next to
that.
the water, but I hate it. I hate the ocean. I hate seafood. I think it's gross.
Yeah, but I guess it kind of depends too, though. Because you have the option to have. I mean, imagine I would wonder what would happen if you moved it to the Midwest where there's no ocean. I mean, granted,
Seafood is very popular.
right, but they have to fly it in.
Yeah.
There's nothing like being able to go to Newport and have a fresh lobster.
Yeah.
And again, we don't pronounce our words
Lobster.
proper. Lobster, going to the car,
Also, as a Rhode Island born and raised, I hate that. When my mom says soda, no, please.
It's a soda.
No R.
Let's see. Roger Williams, founder of Rhode Island, established the first practical working model of democracy. When we talk about him in a minute, Roger Williams was kind of a rebel in himself. I think that's why we have such a rebellious state.
Literally started his career with getting kicked out of somewhere.
Right. And we kind of carried on. Now, Rhode Island's very confused about our identity. We have kind of an identity crisis here, but we'll talk about that in a little while. But yeah, he had the first working model of democracy after he was banished from Plymouth, Massachusetts, because his extreme, and they have it in quotes, extreme views concerning freedom of speech and religion. Thomas Jefferson and John Adams publicly acknowledged Roger Williams as the originator of the concepts and principles reflected in the First Amendment. Among those principles were freedom of religion, freedom of speech, and freedom of public assembly.
Which is a big deal because Thomas Jefferson's known as a self-proclaimed atheist.
For sure. And he gave props to what they considered a religious fanatic.
Gave props to the religious dude.
So we're from a little town called East Providence, Sierra and I, and next door to our town is a little city by the name of Pawtucket, and the era known as the Industrial Revolution. You're welcome, America. Started in Rhode Island, with the development of the construction in 1790 of the Samuel Slater water-powered cotton mill in Pawtucket. Till this day, you can still go for tours. They have some old-timey characters that play the part. Let's see. The first British troops sent from England to squash the revolution landed in Newport. Newport is like all over Rhode Island. Like Newport was like a.
It's like the central point. It's like I feel like people who haven't read anything would think Newport is the capital.
Right. Well, Newport's it's very popular. I mean, Newport and Providence, pretty much the only two. Like when you talk to somebody about Rhode Island, they know
like
Newport and Providence.
Newport and Providence, yeah. Jamestown, which is neighboring Newport.
Right.
So
I mean, it kind of goes hand in hand.
guess it's not that special.
Yeah. Beaches.
Beavertail.
I like the beaches. Let's see. Though the second in command to George Washington, Nathaniel Greene, which has like 1,000 schools named after him in this state, a Rhode Islander is acknowledged by many historians as having been the most capable and significant general of the revolutionary effort. Cornwallis feared Greene, Cornwallis, of course, being very popular himself, and his forces most. Greene ultimately defeated Cornwallis. I mean, so a little Rhode Islander defeated Cornwallis.
Which is so hilarious because, like, in history, people hated Nathaniel Greene.
Well, in history, people hated most people.
Well, they hated him because he had a tendency to talk smack about George Washington.
Well, apparently he had the number two complex. George Washington was the man. He wanted to be. The guy. The people who come in who are in second place. They kind of have a tendency to do that sometimes. Here's a cool fact. Standing 11 feet tall and 278 feet above the ground, the Independent Man is a gold-covered bronze statue placed on top of our state house, which has been there since December 18th, 1899. I like to say 19 and 2000 because it's kind of hard to believe that these have been there for a few centuries. Let's see. A reproduction of the original Liberty Bell is in the entrance hall of the south entrance to the State House. It was donated to the people of the state by the United States Treasury Department in 1950 when Harry Truman was president. It's about 3.5 feet tall, and the diameter of the bell at its widest part is approximately 3.5 feet. It is such a realistic copy that it's even a crack similar to the. Why are we taking pride in having a replica of the Liberty Bell from Philly?
Because Philly, like, sorry to everyone listening here from Philly, but it's like, I don't know. I feel like Philly's overlooked a lot, I think.
Come on, Harry Truman. You couldn't give us something original? You gave us a replica of the...
Well, I mean, didn't they wasn't materials from the bell from Rhode Island?
We have to do a little bit of research here.
I don't remember. I don't know. I think the Liberty Bell has something to do with Rhode Island. I think I've read something about it before. Don't hold me to this, but it sounds familiar.
Yeah, we'll have to do some research on that. Here's some girl power for you, Sierra. Since we now have a female co-host, Little Compton is home to the gravesite of the first girl born to colonists in New England. The baby was the daughter of Pilgrims John and Priscilla Alden.
What a name. Priscilla Alden.
Yeah, man. John and Priscilla. Going back to some old stuff here in Rhode Island. The White Horse Tavern was built in 1673 and is the oldest operating tavern in the United States. Rhode Island Red Monument in Adamsville pays homage to the world-famous poultry breed, and our official bird is what? The Rhode Island Red, isn't it?
The Rhode Island Red. It's a chicken.
We have a chicken.
We have a chicken.
So
I don't... It's a rooster, I think. I think it's a rooster.
Our founder, Roger Williams, established the first Baptist church in America in 1638. The existing structure was built in 1775. You know what's kind of sad about that is we founded some of the oldest churches, and we were like the leading state for like religious freedom in this
the
country.
first ever Baptist church was in Rhode Island.
It was, yeah. And that's what I was just saying. We had the first Baptist church. Roger Williams founded, and when we talk about him in just a moment, he founded this state based on the principle of like religious freedom, like being able to, and somehow this state has gotten so far from, like, I mean, we've gotten so far from like God, but we're going to talk about that in a little bit.
I would
too.
just like to interject. I did some research, and apparently every state has a replica of the Liberty Bell.
Well, that's kind of
As
cocky.
part of the Liberty Bell savings bond drive in 1950, 55 replicas of the Liberty Bell were ordered by the United States Department of the Treasury and were cast in France by the Fonderie Picard.
You mean it wasn't even made in the U.S.?
No.
Good job, Harry Truman. So not only was it not something special to Rhode Island in 1950, that whole little tidbit that I read is pretty much, it's cheap.
We all
it's
have
cheap.
one.
Everyone in the country got one.
We all have a French Liberty Bell.
A French Liberty Bell. Unbelievable. Settled in 1642, Patuxent Village, beautiful little place in Rhode Island, and Warwick lays claim to being New England's oldest village. I guess that means something. Sierra, you love to read books.
I do.
The Redwood Library in Athenaeum in Newport is the United States' oldest library building.
That adds up. I've probably walked by it and haven't even noticed.
So Sierra lives a block away from this place. The Crescent Park Carousel in East Providence, representing the townies, which two of us are in the room here, is the official state symbol of folk art.
Originally a amusement park.
It was indeed.
I think it 1970 something. I think it was torn down. I actually just saw a bunch of pictures on Facebook of when it was abandoned. Kind of creepy, eerie to look at.
What excites me now, though, is our Mr. Baby will be big enough now to experience the Crescent Park Carousel.
All the carousel horses just got remodeled. That's why it was closed for like a year and a half.
That was a forever project.
Forever project.
So Mr. Baby gets to break in the new ponies. I wonder how he's gonna like the ponies. Gotta get him a good one though.
Can't put it on him right after he eats. Cause like vomit
We're
everywhere.
gonna treat it like when my mom used to take me to the beach. Like you have to wait 20 minutes.
He has to be large. He has to be like tall enough to like how you can grab the rings and throw it into the clown mouth. I don't know if they still have that.
It's okay. They do, but his two Josh can stand next to him. I'll grab the rings for him. I'll grab it. He could throw them on the ground.
I was always too short to reach the rings.
Nancy says the same. Nancy used to have to hang
off.
off.
You have to hang off.
I'm pretty sure Nancy still has to hang off the side.
The weak horse seatbelt holding by a thread.
To those of you listening, Nancy is my wife. She's literally 5'0". She stopped growing when she was 10 years old.
That happens to women.
Yeah, but 5'0".
I'm only 5'2".
I was trying to get her, if she was a few inches short, I would have totally applied for one of those handicap placards.
Is that a thing? Your height makes you handicapped?
Like if she was a legal midget? Imagine going shopping on Black Friday? I digress. I'm sorry. I can't go. I say that to her all the time. She gets so mad.
She's going to get thrown into the aisles.
Let's see. All right. New England's oldest Messianic temple in Warren was built in the 18th century with timbers from British frigates sunk in Newport Harbor during the Revolutionary War. Now, I share this not because I really care about the oldest Messianic temple, but I just think it's cool that they were like, you know what? We sunk that ship, all right, in the Revolutionary War. We're going to take that wood and we're going to build it.
We're going to build something out of it.
You know what? Forget about it. We're going to take that wood and we're going to build it, Let's see. Nine Men's Misery Monument in Cumberland is the oldest known monument to veterans. We salute our troops on this show in the United States. I love this. So, I mean, we have it's called Nine Men's Misery Monument in Cumberland. It's the oldest known monument to veterans in the United States. It was erected in memory of the colonists killed in Pierce's fight during King Philip's War in 1676. This is a shout out for your dad because it has to do with Portsmouth. Portsmouth is home to the oldest schoolhouse in the United States. The school was built in 1716, and your dad probably has to fix that school.
He actually
every
drove
week.
me by it last time we went to Portsmouth.
Yeah.
It's not a school building anymore. I think it's a firehouse now.
Whatever it is, your dad has to fix it.
I think it's a firehouse now. I could be wrong. I'll ask him.
All right. Since 1785, Bristol has had the longest running unbroken series of 4th of July Independence Day observances in the country. The Bristol Parade, the oldest parade in the U.S. of A. Let me tell you, just like the Gatsby people in Warwick take that serious, I mean, Bristol Parade is unbelievable.
I love it. It's like, surprisingly, only living a few minutes down the road from Bristol. I've only been like once or twice.
I used to go when I was a kid.
It seems overwhelming. I don't think I'd like it.
It's bananas. You have to plan to stay there for like the day before and
there's
the day after.
food trucks. There's like a whole place sectioned off for like just music and food.
It's not even just that. It's
a festival.
It's just the sheer fact that you can't leave. It's like everything's blocked. The streets are all like closed.
Do not plan on driving through Bristol.
My brother-in-law Tony, which we all know, but for those of you who don't know him, he's married to my middle sister, which is probably the majority of our podcast listeners. But like his family had a house in Bristol, so like when we used to go to the parade, we used to like literally have to like camp out at his house, like because we couldn't leave. Like there was just no way out because Bristol.
I hate driving through Bristol anyway.
Well, because there's only like 2 ways in and 2 ways out. Like you know what I'm saying? There's just no way in and out of there.
Straight line.
All right, we're almost there, guys. With some more facts here. The first torpedo boat, the Stiletto, was built in Bristol in 1887. For those of you who don't know, Rhode Island is also the home of like we build like submarines here. Like we build like nuclear. Like we have this place called EB. We build all kinds of stuff. All right, Pelham Street in Newport. Again, Newport. I'm getting tired of Newport. All right.
That's all we have.
I think that's why we don't visit Newport, like, because we were born here. So, like, Newport. Like, oh, hey, you're from Rhode Island? Do you know where Newport is? Get away from me.
Literally just drive a certain way on the highway for, like, half an hour and you're there.
Yeah.
But it's like one of those things where, like, on a, like, warm, like, spring or summer day, it's like, let's go walk around Newport for a little while.
Walking around Newport on a summer day with that ocean breeze is fantastic.
You get that fudge.
Yep.
Ice cream.
Yep, get some ice cream.
One of the many seafood restaurants.
Oh, and especially like, so you don't appreciate that as much because you're not a big fan of the seafood, but I love the seafood. So, I mean, there's some really good spots down there, and we love to pop in. And I'm not going to mention any of your names unless you want to endorse us. So if you're listening to our program.
I don't even know any of the names.
I know all of the names, and I have a couple of favorites. So if you're listening to us, you know who you are, down by the water in Newport.
Newport to us is like Boston to Massachusetts.
Right. You just get used to it. But Pelham Street in Newport was the first street in the country to use gas-illuminated street lights. Look at that. We were we were advanced.
Street lights. Now most of them don't even work.
Probably not. They're probably the same gas ones from...
Going back on nuclear stuff, do you know that Rhode Island is the only U.S. state that has ever had a nuclear explosion outside of a controlled environment?
Well, that makes sense.
It happened in 1964 in Wood River, Rhode Island.
Jeez.
Apparently, the person doing, like, put too much, like, of the liquid on it, and it just exploded.
I wonder what OSHA charges you for that violation. Like, I know
life in prison. I can imagine.
I know OSHA like tags us like thousands of dollars if I have like if I'm up one step too high on a 6-step ladder. But I wonder how much it is for the nuclear thing. And then of
your
course,
life. That's what it is.
We have a place called Quonset, which is a lot of military installments. The Quonset hut was invented at Quonset Point, a key naval reserve base. So we invented the Quonset hut. You're welcome, America.
That adds up.
So, I mean, Rhode Island, we have a lot of quirky little things, right? I mean, we have a lot of firsts here. I mean, granted, of course, I mean, I guess it's not hard to say that we have a lot of firsts because we were one of the 13. Well, we were the last of the 13 colonies, but I mean,
imagine a lot of people are like, I need a quiet place to invent my thing, and they just kind of.
Yeah, I have 13 places to choose from. These other places seem kind of judgy, like let me go to Rhode Island where it's like a free for all. I mean, we were, Roger Williams came here. I mean, so Roger Williams was born in London in 1603. He died in Providence in 1683. He was kicked out of Massachusetts because apparently he was too extreme for them.
Because of his views on religious freedom and his disapproval of confiscating land from Native Americans.
Yeah, so I mean, he was one of those guys. It says after leaving Cambridge, Roger Williams became a minister. he had become a Puritan while attending Cambridge. The Puritans wanted to reform the Church of England. Roger's views on religion made him unpopular in England. He decided to move to Massachusetts Bay Colony in America in 1631, a year after the colony was first established. He became a separatist. So about the time Roger set a sail for America, his views on religion had changed somewhat. He now believed that the Church of England could not be reformed, so he wanted to separate from the Church of England, which is called separatism. In addition to separatism, Roger had some other ideas that were considered radical for his day. He believed that individuals should have total freedom of religion. This was radical in that the Puritans moved to America so that they could practice their own form of religion, but didn't want other forms of religion practiced. Roger also felt that government should be separate from religion, a very radical idea at the time. So I mean, what's being said here is not that government should be separated in the sense that religion can't have its place in government, but there shouldn't be like one state religion. So the reason they were escaping from England was because they had one state religion. Roger Williams believed that you should be able to practice your religious freedoms freely. Like you should be able to choose and have, I don't know. I mean, he became a separatist,
It's something that they don't teach in like high school history class. Like, why did he believe what he believed? So Roger Williams actually believed that everyone should have the right to their own religion because he believed that nobody would know what religion is right until Jesus came back himself and told us.
Well, yeah, I mean, he was so when you start getting deep into his, I mean, because you see him, and then you also see him jump around a little bit, like from being a Puritan. He starts the Baptist church, and then towards the end of his life,
he dips his toes in a lot.
Yeah, they consider him to just be religious because he was a believer of sorts, but he kind of didn't really conform to like a specific denominational view. So he gets to Massachusetts, and his ideas get him into trouble. He became friends with the local Native Americans, and he began to speak out against the rights of the English king to own land again in the Americas. So he starts to become a friend of the Native Americans, which kind of really saves him because, once he gets himself in hot water, they kind of ostracize him. They exile him, and when he gets exiled, the Native Americans are the ones that keep him alive. They take him in, they feed him, they take care of him.
Because he wasn't a jerk. He wasn't like, I want your land, give it to me, or I'm gonna kill you. He was like, hey, I'll pay you.
I mean, this is the guy that founded the state of Rhode Island. I mean, in 1636, the court of Massachusetts ordered Williams to be exiled from the colony for spreading new and dangerous opinions. I mean, whew, could you imagine if that court existed today?
Gone.
So he left with a bunch of followers, and they went and established the city of Providence in 1636, this is where, like I was saying earlier, he kind of founded like the principle of democracy. It was basically all the citizens that came with him. They did a majority vote. Everything they wanted to do was based on the majority. Rules and laws only applied to civil issues and not religion. So they had a civil society, and then when it came to religion, people were allowed to have the freedom of worship and freedom in their religion. Providence became a popular place for people seeking religious freedom from Massachusetts. A few years after Williams established Providence, another religious leader from Massachusetts named Anne Hutchinson established the settlement of Portsmouth, not far from Providence. And in 1644, Williams traveled to England and secured a charter that united Providence, Portsmouth, and Newport into the colony of Rhode Island and Providence plantations, which a few years ago we voted out the name to be called Rhode Island, and we dropped the Providence plantations. Williams
and now,
died.
because of that, Massachusetts has the longest.
Right, we used to have the longest name.
Now it's Massachusetts, and I feel
Commonwealth. Yep.
That's really upsetting.
Oh. So Williams died in Providence sometime during the winter of 1683. So, I mean, some key things from Williams' life. They're unsure of his exact date of birth because his birth certificate or his birth records were destroyed in the Great Fire of London. He married Mary Bernard in 1629. They had 6 children, including 3 sons and 3 daughters.
Goodness.
He spent his first winter in exile living with the local Wampanoag peoples who gave him food and shelter. Although Williams did not belong to an organized church, he was deeply religious Christian, and Williams's house burnt down along with the city of Providence when Native Americans attacked the city during the King Philip's War. What a tragic end. But he was a rebel.
He was a rebel.
And Rhode Island is still kind of a rebellious state. And quite frankly, Rhode Island till this day kind of still holds a little bit of that culture because, we're kind of confused. We're going to get into some fun stuff here, but we came from a place with religious freedom, and we started off as a place, where we encouraged, we encouraged God, and
I actually I didn't just meet her, but I just talked to someone today that told me that she moved to Rhode Island specifically because of the freedom of religion thing. And I was like, that's something you don't hear like commonly in like the 20s now.
Well, because we've gotten cold. I mean, New England as a whole, we've gotten very cold. And here's the funny thing about Rhode Island. Rhode Island, it's a melting pot in a way, but geographically, within the state, we're very confused. So like when you go to the densely populated urban areas, like for instance, you go to Providence and Pawtucket and like East Providence and like all the like Cranston, like this densely populated section of Rhode Island, it's very cold. It's very liberal, right? You go down to like the boonies of Rhode Island, because we do have a lot of boonies in Rhode Island. We have like like Smithfield and Foster Gloucester. We have like South County, and you go out to like the suburb, like pretty much everywhere outside of like the densely populated areas of Rhode Island, and it's very conservative. So we're very confused with our identity. However, because we have such densely populated areas, liberalism wins. So but New England as a whole, it's one of those things where religion is cold. We've gotten very, for lack of better words, we've gotten very woke. You step on everybody's toes. It's like everybody's offended by everything. It's one of those things where Rhode Island's very confused with it, and even the way we do things. So when we're talking on this program about different things, people must be listening to us, and they kind of chuckle because even the things that we do in Rhode Island, you have some interesting things in RI. Let's talk about those, and people are gonna hear how confused we are.
Oh my gosh, what do you want to start with?
I don't know. Why don't you start with our giant mosquito?
He's a termite for one, not a mosquito. Get it right. So Nibbles Woodaway. Gonna let that sink in for a second. Also coined as the Big Blue Bug, is a giant 58-foot long termite that looks over, is it
95?
95?
Yeah.
Looks over 95. So Nibbles is, goodness, we need to like post a picture of him or something. He's literally a giant blue termite. That's the only way I can describe him.
Yeah, in Rhode Island, he's affectionately called a big blue bug. He's like the biggest celebrity in the state.
Nibbles sits on the roof of New England Pest Control, but they renamed themselves to the Big Blue Bug Solutions. And he apparently brings over $1 million of revenue every year for this company.
Oh, of course he does.
He's on pens, he's on cups, he's on stickers. You can get merch with his face on it. We decorate him like Rudolph during Christmas time. They cover him with over 5,000 lights in December. Why? So I couldn't ever find any information about why Nibbles exists, but I know the owner of the company said that there will never be another Nibbles just because of how popular he's gotten, and that they can use any room that another Nibbles would go on for more billboards and advertisement. But what better advertisement than a giant big blue bug?
It's absolutely crazy. It is absolutely crazy how obsessed we get with. So, all right, one of our biggest celebrities is the Big Blue Bug, and honestly, to the point where people come here, and that's how we literally tell people how to get to places. Oh yeah, pass the Big Blue Bug.
Pass the bug. He has appeared on Oprah and was also apparently in the movie Dumb and Dumber, which I've never seen before.
Oh my goodness, Cece! Every week I'm learning that you're not like.
I'm not a movie person.
But it's unbelievable.
I don't like comedies either. If something is just like stupid to be stupid, I don't like it.
But that's like one of Rhode Island's proudest moments was
Dumb and Dumber because the Big Blue Bug was in it.
Because the Big Blue Bug is in it, and it, you know.
I mean, I think him being on Oprah is a little more special. It's Oprah.
Well, he did make Big Blue. But what else you got for us? What?
About the bug or the other stuff?
Let's go on to some other stuff there.
Alrighty, I have coffee milk.
Yes, we are obsessed with coffee milk.
It's not what it sounds like. It's not just iced coffee with milk in it. It is a sweetened milk. So coffee milk syrup is a sweetened milk syrup that you mix with just any kind of milk, and it makes it taste like a very... I don't think it tastes like coffee. Might be an unpopular opinion here, but I don't think it tastes like coffee.
Well, yeah, I don't know. I mean, it tastes like coffee milk. I mean,
it tastes like coffee milk, but like I don't think it just tastes like coffee milk. I asked my mom this, and I was like, do other states have coffee milkshakes? Because it's made with like coffee syrup. And she said that they do now. So just melt a coffee milkshake, and that's pretty much what coffee milk would taste like, I think.
You know, if this show really picks up, we'll have to come up with like our own coffee milk syrup, and then like brand it like Rhode Island coffee milk syrup.
Autocrat is literally buying any other company that makes coffee syrup. I don't think we'll make it that far.
That's cool, because then they can sponsor us. They can buy our syrup out. And
Autocrat sponsor us. But coffee milk was actually introduced to Rhode Island in the 1920s by Southern Italian immigrants.
So the Italians own the hill. I mean.
And happy birthday to the official state drink of Rhode Island. On March 30th, 1993, state legislature designated the delicacy as the official state drink.
Huh.
Official state drink. Do other states have official state drinks?
I would imagine so, but I mean, we're proud of our
like,
state
I know
drink.
there's birds, there's flour. I have never seen official state drink for any other state.
This is Rhode Island. We don't do things.
We're weird.
We don't do things the way other states do them.
So how it was created was an unnamed, I couldn't find his name anywhere. I searched so many websites, couldn't find anything. An unnamed Italian soda fountain operator developed the original coffee syrup by mixing used coffee grounds, sugar, and milk to create a molasses that you mix into milk. So it's literally just coffee grounds.
I mean, it sounds disgusting. But
it does.
But it's a staple.
I imagine that's not exactly how it's made anymore. Like...
I would imagine
where are they getting used coffee grounds from in a little large like capacity? Maybe
they have a deal with like Starbucks or like Dunkin' Donuts or something. I don't know. Maybe they go into like all these coffee shops. Like, hey, give us your grounds.
That would be like like flavored coffee milk because like Starbucks uses like different flavored of coffee. So then like Autocrat and another company named Eclipse began producing at-home coffee syrups. That would go on for decades, but eventually Eclipse was bought by Autocrat in 1940. In 1991. Autocrat bought Eclipse because they were threatened, I think. So Autocrat is really one of the only coffee syrups that you see on the shelf anywhere.
Oh, well, that's because they did what every other big company does. I mean, you start to see the competition, you buy the competition.
They bought the competition.
What happens when you buy the competition? You get bigger and richer.
Well, Eclipse actually sold the syrup first in 1938. Their original building was in Warwick, while Autocrat began selling in the 1940s in Lincoln. Listen, so Eclipse actually came first.
Rhode Island, don't sleep on Rhode Island with stuff like that either, because like Warwick, especially Warwick also has this little place called Rhode Island Ice Cream.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah, and their ice cream is bomb.com. And the reason I give them a shout out, even though they don't endorse our
I've ever had it.
Well, their ice cream is fantastic.
I usually stick with Friendlies.
And the reason I give them a shout out is because, so I'm a PTA president for my kids' school, and like when we have events, they give incredibly, like pretty much give away the ice cream to the school's PTA stuff. I mean, I'd love for them to sponsor us, but
Sponsor us.
they do a lot for the like one that's one of the things you learn a lot about like Rhode Island like businesses and small businesses. They're very big on community.
Where else are they going to give their money?
I mean, their pockets, their bank accounts.
I mean, I guess, but
The
like
Cayman Islands.
Warwick ice cream, have too much for that.
What else you got, kid?
I have New York system wieners.
This is where we think we get weird in Rhode Island, okay?
New York knows nothing about it.
I mean, but we call like, and here's the thing: it's a huge Rhode Island thing. First of all, we like to have New York quote unquote system wieners.
I actually had these for lunch today.
I mean, who doesn't? I mean, when I was like 400 pounds, I mean, I would go. I mean, especially when I was a kid, these things were like 99 cents.
Oh yeah, that's
actually they were like 50 cents.
M&M's is like 2 for like 9.
Yeah, M&M's is like literally down the street from my house. Shout out to them. They're owned
They're
by
That's where I went.
family like 3 times removed. But you know, but we love to have, you know, these wiener these mini hot dogs literally.
So they are specifically a 4-inch pork, beef, and veal hot dog looking piece of meat. So they're not even considered a hot dog.
And then you throw a bunch of stuff on it.
Bunch of stuff. Specifically mustard, onions, celery salt, and ground beef sauce. And if you put anything else on it, you're weird.
Yep, that's the way it's done.
With a nice cold glass of coffee milk.
That's right. And that's where we get weird. And we call it New York system.
New York system.
Everyone calls it New York system in the state.
Do you know why?
Why?
I know why.
Tell me why.
So during the time that like these wieners were becoming popular, Coney Island in New York was trying to coin hot Coney Island hot dogs as their thing, and that was getting really popular. So the Rhode Islanders who were inventing this was like, well, let's put New York system in front of our meal to draw people in.
So now
it worked.
So now we give credit to somebody who had nothing to do with it.
I don't think we're giving credit. I think we're just stealing their brand. Because we could have called them Coney Island hot wieners.
Or we could have just called them wieners, hot wieners.
But I think if we like put
Rhode
like
Island hot
Rhode
wieners.
Island hot I don't think it would have gotten as much like popularity.
But like, who outside of Rhode Island even knows about these things?
No one.
Exactly.
People just think they're hot dogs.
Right.
But then we say, no, you need to put this, 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 and this on it.
I mean, and here's the weird thing about, I mean, now we have like all these sanitation laws and stuff like that. But I mean, when I was a kid, everything was a lot more lax. And like, you would go into a place and these guys, they would line these up like up to their elbow, right?
Oh, yeah.
And like, and you're talking about like these guys with like the hairiest arms, like all the way up to their elbow.
They would put them up their elbow and like like with their free hand, just putting all the toppings on it, going down their arm.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. And we would eat these things.
Well, because people would buy them in like bulks at a time because they're not big.
Right.
Like, and like the bun is like it's just a steamed hot dog bun. So it's like, it just makes it even smaller.
But it's customized because it's made for this.
Do you
this
know
thing.
that apparently the largest distributor for these hot dog like wiener buns is in East Providence?
Is it now?
I learned that in my research. I didn't write down the name, which was stupid on my part, but
That's respect.
Yeah.
Go EP.
I know. And we have like 4 or 5 wiener joints in East Providence alone.
We do. Although, like I said, mad props to. I mean, M&M's is my place. I've been going to M&M's since I was like 9 years
And we
old.
have Massachusetts trying to steal our thing with Eats and Seekonk.
Are they even still there? I don't know if they.
Yeah, they are still there.
I don't know.
Like, no offense to Eats, but like just shift over the border a little bit.
Right. Yeah, New York system. So again, Rhode Island very confused. Didn't do the whole what do you call it, the alcohol thing with prohibition, but then now we can't sell liquor in our supermarkets, but then we have wiener joints that are called New York system, but New York has nothing to do with them. It's kind of like
know nothing about them, which is so weird.
It's kind of like that lawsuit that just happened with Buffalo Wild Wings, where they're trying to figure out if there was buffalo, and come on.
There's no buffalo in my chicken.
I mean, what is going on? I mean, we and then people listen to this and they're like, wait, you drink milk with your Rhode Island hot dog?
I remember when I was really young, going to Virginia, and we stopped at this like breakfast place, and I asked them for coffee milk because I didn't know that it was just a Rhode Island thing, and they brought me coffee and milk, and I was like, kind of just looked at my parents all confused, like, what? It's like, or the people who say that we talk weird. Like, we go down to the South and they're like, you talk weird.
Oh, we definitely talk weird. I mean,
But compared to the South?
yeah, but think about it. And how do you think, like, how do you think I feel? Like, here's the deal. Regular Rhode Islanders talk weird. And then I come from a house where we're like first generation Americans. So like we have like the Rhode Island and Portuguese accent that like mix.
Yeah.
So we speak very weirdly. And then I have a tendency not only to speak with that mixed accent, but then I speak very quickly. So like when I'm on the podcast, I'm sure I still speak kind of fast, but I try to I purposely have to like tone it down a little bit.
I get so
You know?
mad when people take the letters or add letters to words, and then I catch myself doing it sometimes. I was like, no. Like my dad, car keys. Car keys.
It's a Rhode Island thing. It's a Rhode Island thing. New York sister. What else we got?
That's all I have written down, but I know we have Dell's Lemonade.
We have Dell's. We have Dell's lemonade,
which is literally just frozen lemonade. You can get it in like traditional lemon, watermelon. I think there's a blue raz one now.
Well, and then we also have
the pretzel sticks.
Yeah, we have the pretzel sticks you put in the lemonade.
Like,
you know,
why?
people look at us like it's
why?
Funny. You know, and then we have different parts of the state where we have our like, you know, we have Federal Hill. Federal Hill is like all these Italian restaurants.
That's where, despite Rhode Island, I just learned this, apparently being the most Italian state in the whole country, Federal Hill is where they all hang out.
Well, great food, great times. They, you know, the festivals there.
Dude. Oh my god.
So I mean, Rhode Island has a lot of crazy, and then we're the smallest state, but we have like we started talking about, you know. We have a bunch of colleges.
That all hate each other.
Not only do we have a bunch of colleges, but we do have some of the top-ranking colleges in the country. I mean,
top nursing, top teaching.
Yeah, I mean we have Brown, which is like one of the top
Emma
medical
Watson
schools.
Went to Brown.
Yeah.
You know who Emma Watson is, right?
Unlike you, I do know
who
a lot of these famous people are. I mean, we have RISD, Rhode Island School of Design, which is like one of the number one art schools in the country. We have Brown, which is one of the number one medical schools in the country. I mean, so for a small state, we have a lot of things. We have a lot of historic things. We have a lot of cultured things. But you know, and I know that this was like has been a very lighthearted discussion today. But like, again, I can't help but to go back to this thought. Like, and this thought we've shared this on like a national scale, but 2 Peter chapter 2 verse 20 and 22, it says, "And when people escape from the wickedness of the world by knowing our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, and then get tangled up and enslaved by sin again, they are worse off than before. It would be better if they had never known the way to righteousness than to know it and then reject the command they were given to live a holy life. They prove the truth of this proverb: a dog returns to its vomit, and another says, a washed pig returns to the mud." You know, Rhode Island is one of those things, and this is what this is what I love and hate about Rhode Island. I love how we have such a crazy history, and I love how, you know, I've always been the weirdo. Sierra, you know this about me. I've never marched to the beat of the general population's drum. I mean, and I encourage my kids to kind of march to the beat of their own drum too. But I've always lived my faith very proudly. Like, you know, I wear my faith as a badge of honor. You know, I get that it's not the popular thing all the time. And granted, I'm not the perfect believer. Believe me, I've tripped and fallen plenty of time. But you know, and that's why I love this state, because we are not like, Rhode Island is so different when you compare it to like the rest of the country. We in the 45 minutes or so that we've been talking about this state, we see how we started so much more differently than every other state. We've got such like a variety of, like, in this one small, we just talked about how small this state is. We are literally the smallest real estate in the country. But we have such a diverse, we have everything from oceans to farmland.
You know, 51% of Rhode Island is forest.
Right. Who would have thought that? Like I said, we literally have such a, you can find anything that tickles your fancy in Rhode Island. You want to be a farmer, you can have a farm in Rhode Island. You want to live on the water, you can live on the water in Rhode Island. I mean, Rhode Island is like a miniature scale of California. Like we're like a speck like we're like California, like those boats in a bottle. Like we're like California in a bottle. and so I love that about Rhode Island, how we're so different, we're so unique, we're so uh, rebellious in terms of like how we stand against the like and how we started. But the part that breaks my heart about Rhode Island is that we started off so right. I mean, Rhode Island started off with such a strong religious backbone. Like,
Well, when you're such a small state with like a small, like such a small, not really, we don't even have like a small population compared to everyone else. It's really easy to be like, well, I want to be like them instead, or let's be like them instead. They look like they're doing it right.
I don't know.
It's easy to like conform to what the other states are doing instead of like continuing to be that like original what we were to begin with.
Well, I mean, I could see your point to a certain degree, but at the same time, can't the argument be made that since we are such a small state, and since we have such like spunk, because let's be honest, nobody comes into Rhode Island and really like punks Rhode Island either. Like Rhode Island's gonna do what Rhode Island's gonna do to a degree. I mean, because we end up following Massachusetts, like I said. I mean, you know, and a lot of things. But like, but in our DNA, like we have the Rhode Island way of doing stuff. I mean, but like. How, and I guess I could see it from the perspective of because Rhode Island has so many like transplants that come here from other places. Maybe they bring certain things with them. Maybe because we've got such a dense population in some of our urban communities that come from like such other like transplants from other urban communities that does that. I don't know. The part that breaks my heart is I know that this verse goes towards like people who experienced God and knew God. It's really talking about people that were in the church and kind of left the church and kind of like how do you experience the goodness of God and walk away from it, you know? But as a state, you know, I feel like I could apply some of this principle to like how does a state that once was founded on such a principle that was you know blessed by that principle, being the smallest state and doing the things that we've done, you know. How did we get to where we are? Like how have we fallen so far? You know, like I just don't get it. I don't you know, and then you see like how we still have like so many churches here, but you know it's you don't see how you don't see them really like taking charge. You know, like we still let like the loud minority take charge over the silent. I like to feel like we have a silent majority. I like to feel like a lot of people in our state still know who God is. I just feel like we're afraid to speak up.
A lot of people are taking, I have the right to my religious freedom, and that means I also have the right not to execute it. Like, if I don't want to, I don't have to, so I'm not going to.
Look, I feel you on that, but isn't that exactly what the problem we face today is? Is that you know people are kind of taking that perspective of, you know. I don't need to do it. Maybe somebody else will. Like just because I can doesn't mean I have to, and just because I don't have to, like you know, maybe I'll just sit on the sidelines. It's too much work.
Yeah, that's kind of like the people who are like, I believe in God, but I'm just not going to go. Like I don't need to go to church to believe in God.
Oh, isn't that like the most common?
It is the most common. And like I was there at one point. Everyone probably has been there at one point.
Oh, for sure. I mean, for sure. I mean, and it's natural for people to question it, but doesn't it come to a point where you just get tired? Like, you know, it gets to a point where we have to come to the only real solution. I mean, you know, we run and 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 it gets to a point where like I get tired of running. Like I believe that there comes a point where we can just trust that if we just stop running and we fall on our face and let God take over, like, you know, God will handle business. I love what it says in 1 Timothy 2:5-6. It says, God is on one side and all people are on the other side. And Christ Jesus is between them to bring them together by giving his life for all mankind. I mean, like, when do people realize that, you know, yeah, okay, we may see that there's a divide between us and eternity, but that divide can be really bridged by Jesus Christ, the death on Calvary. Look, we're going into what the world calls Holy Week, right? Palm Sunday is this weekend. Next week is Easter. We celebrate the resurrection of Jesus Christ. I mean, between Friday and Sunday, that you know, we celebrate you know, the death of Christ on the cross, and we celebrate the resurrection that takes place on you know, a couple of days thereafter. no, that is the cost that was paid for us to have like this price paid for us not to have condemnation in hell. Like, I mean, when do we as a people realize that if we fall back to God, that Jesus Christ is standing there in the middle waiting for you to bridge the gap? You know, all we have to do is repent. All we have to do is ask God to forgive us. You know, basically, we just have to become a little bit humble. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I don't really know what to say to that, honestly.
Hey, I admire you for trying. I mean,
I tried.
Because it's one of those statements. I mean, honestly, like, what can someone really say? See, the thing for us here is that it's hard because we've both had our separate journeys, and we've both experienced our faith in a similarly different way, right? Like you've shared a little bit on the podcast about like your time where you've had to kind of find God again, you know, and now you've come back but you had to go through that. It Our paths were different. So, you know, we get pulled away. Like me, I was in the same boat when I was a teenager. Where I had like my path. You know, there was a time where I wandered off, and in that moment I didn't understand, and in that moment you didn't understand. But the problem is, you know, now that we've come back, it's hard for us to really look at it and be like, I don't know what I was thinking.
Well, I'm a firm believer that like people do things in their life and because of those things, the outcome is going to be who they're actually meant to be. So I think sometimes when people have to walk away from God and come back to it, sometimes I believe that is necessary to happen. In my case, I think if I didn't do that, then I would probably be in a lot worse of a place now than I am.
Well, and I could look. Here's the thing with you and I that was also similar. We grew up church kids. So and I share this with a few friends of mine. You know, one of the things that as church kids we never got to really experience was that real come to Jesus moment. Like we all had that come to Jesus moment, but it was different. It's not like when you never knew Jesus Christ or who he was, and then you come to church one day, you know, not knowing anything. You know, like the song Amazing Grace says, I once was blind, but now I see. But like when you're born into church, you're kind of born seeing because you know your whole life is like in church, right? So you kind of know who God is from the time you're small and what's expected of the faith. So like one of the things that I've shared with my friends numerous times was like, you know, I kind of get jealous, a little envious of like those people that never knew who God was before they accepted him into his life, because they have like those big awakening moments, like where it's like that whole, like Nancy, when Nancy came to know who Jesus Christ was, like she sobbed uncontrollably. It was like one of those things where like I got to witness, and until this day I'm a little envious of her for that, because she got to experience God in a way that I never really did for a long time, you know. And so like, you know, for us, walking away was one of those things where it's like, you know, it was just part of our norm, the church. And then like, you know, kind of like the old song goes, sometimes you don't know what you got till it's gone. So you wander. And then when you come back, you actually realize, like, that's the only time you start to actually realize, like, what God really is and who he really is to you and how he could really affect you, you know?
Well, I think sometimes people need to experience what the world is actually to know what they already had, if that makes sense. Like, in my case, I didn't really, like, if you're a church kid, you're sheltered a little bit. Like, my parents were nowhere bad as they could have been. Like, we weren't that sheltered, but like it was still one of those things where it's like a little bit, right? Like I didn't experience the world as much as everyone else did. So I feel like as an adult stepping away and experiencing the world, I was like, this sucks. I'm gonna go back.
Well, and not for nothing, it's one of those things where, you know, my dad always uses the expression, the grass is always greener on the other side, right? It's really not. I mean, you know.
But the other half of that expression is it's green where you water it, right?
Right. And it's so crazy because, like, you know, sometimes you think to yourself, like, oh, it must be so much easier this. But you're right. Like, you start to walk on that side and you're like, wait. It's like you know, I got married young, and you know, my friends in college used to pick on me. They're like, oh, you know, don't you want to be single? Listen, I love my wife to death. She is like my whole life, and it's like I would not change not one thing. And honestly, like I seen them through school, and I seen them even now as adults. Some of them are still single, and I'm like, man, I would never want what they have. I love what I have. I love my wife. I love my kids. I love having my family unit. You know, it's like sometimes it may appear to be greener, but it's really not. And now from our side looking to the other side, what I will tell you is, for people who don't know who Jesus Christ is, I'm not going to say that the grass. Well, I am going to say that the grass is greener. I'm not saying that the grass is easier, because to have green grass takes a lot of work. Like Sierra says, you have to water it. You have to take care of it. But there is no better decision that you will ever make in your life than getting to know Jesus Christ as your Lord and personal Savior. And we say this every week. I mean, we march to this drum literally every single week, and that's kind of the point. I mean, yeah, granted, we're having a lot of fun talking about Rhode Island, and for those of you who didn't know that our state existed, yeah, no, we're not part of New York. We are a state in the United States of America. We are an actual state, one of the original OG states that founded this country. We were founded on godly principle, and like I said, it breaks my heart. And hopefully one day Rhode Island, sees that things were much better before it walked away from the religious principles that founded it. Just like the country. The country hopefully will one day wake up and figure out that it's walked away, and it was much better before it walked away from its godly principles. But maybe you're listening to this program and you've tried your life in 1,000 different ways. You've tried, the self-help books, and you've tried, the TED Talks and the motivational videos. You've tried, all the different counseling techniques and methods, and you've tried everything that you've tried all the best-selling books that are out there. You've tried it all, and something is still missing. That piece of the puzzle, you just don't feel complete, and no matter what you try to do, you can't find it. Well, I got news for you today. That missing piece is Jesus Christ. It's the same God that Sierra and I were just talking about. It's the God that created you. It's the God that created the heavens and the earth. It's our ultimate. It's the ultimate power that dwells within us through the Holy Spirit. God loves you so much that He sent His one and only Son to die on the cross. And He did this because He wants to give you a way out. He wants to give you a way out of having to spend eternity in hell. He wants to give you a way out from having to face all of life's obstacles by yourself. He wants to give you a way out of, having to feel like you're alone and that you're not loved, or whatever it is that you're going through that rabbit hole on. He wants to be there for you, even when you feel like nobody is or nobody else is. He didn't send His Son to condemn this world. He sent His Son so that the world through Him would have hope and a future, that the world could be saved. But God gives us free will. He's not going to force you. And this is ultimately your choice, because you have to take action. In Romans chapter 10, verse 9 and 10, it says, "If you openly declare that Jesus is Lord and believe in your heart that God raised Him from the dead, you will be saved. For it is by believing in your heart that you are made right with God, and it is by openly declaring your faith that you are saved." In Acts chapter 4, verse 12, it says, "Salvation is found in no one else, for there is no other name, Jesus, under heaven, given to mankind by which we must be saved." What am I really saying to you here? What I'm saying to you is that it comes to a point in our lives where we have to make a decision on whether or not we're going to repent. What does it mean to repent? It means admitting that we're sinners. It means crying out to God and asking Him to forgive us for everything that we've done. But here's the great news, friends. If you mean it, if you're genuine, if you do this with sincerity in your heart, God's going to forgive you no matter what. And from that day forward, you become a child of the one true King. Sound about right, Sierra?
It does. Something that I remember most about when I was like out of church and everything, and I'm not going to share too much because I know that Josh has a whole episode dedicated to that kind of thing. Y'all are going to know my whole life story. Goodness. But something that I can share is it's lonely. Like, I remember being surrounded, like, in a room full of people, surrounded by people I love, and still feeling really lonely. And like, maybe if you're feeling the same way, maybe you were in the same position I am and it's feeling the same way. It's weird not believing in anything, honestly. Like, I know that's not the case for everyone, but I remember I have had nights where I was literally crying in my bedroom because I wanted to believe in something.
Mm. Oh, but isn't that the great dilemma, Sierra? I mean, at the end of the day, as humans, we're all looking for that something. I mean, that's why God created us to worship Him. Now He gives us the choice to worship Him, but God created us, and if you notice, until we fall in love with God, until and maybe this is part of what you were feeling when you were in that time away from Him, but until you fell back in love with Him, we try to look for whatever we can to fill that space, and it's just like nothing fills that space like God does. It doesn't. And that's the problem. Like, we try to fill that space with all kinds of stuff. We try to fill that like space with what some people call retail therapy. We try to fill that space with you know going out and clubbing and partying. We try to fill that space with alcohol. Sometimes we try to fill that space with drugs. We try to fill that space with sex or different. Fill in the blank. We try to fill that space with so many different things, but nothing can fill that space the way that God fills that space. And until we realize that, listen, all I can say is you got to give God a chance. It's the best decision you'll ever make. And I'm not going to speak for Cece, and I'm not going to speak for others who have gone through this experience, but I'll speak for myself. I never thought I'd be as emotional as I was when I finally realized that I was being an arrogant, proud, stubborn fool. And when I finally fell to my knees, growing up as a pastor's son, growing up as someone who knew the Word of God intimately, it's not like I didn't know Scripture. I knew Scripture. I could quote Scripture. I could tell you the history of the Bible. I could tell you the history of Bible characters. I mean, I grew up in church, and having that knowledge and still having this like separation from God until I had that genuine encounter with Jesus Christ. Oh, when God finally broke my heart because I surrendered to Him, my life was never the same. God can change you too. You just have to let Him. Friends, if you're listening to the sound of my voice, and if you listen to the sound of my girl Sierra's voice, woo, Cece coming in on her first episode hot and ready to proclaim the gospel of Jesus Christ. I know her mom and dad are going to be proud. I know her Mimi's going to be especially proud.
Well, I was thinking about this the other day. I don't mean to like interrupt your thing, but
No,
like
you're good.
even subconsciously, like when I was still in that really dark area, like look at Ethan's name. Ethan has like the most religious name of anyone I've ever met in my life. Ethan, which I did research on after, apparently the second most wisest person in the entire Bible, other than Solomon and Jesus Christ himself. I feel like he doesn't count. And then Gabriel, and then Abrahamson, which is like Abraham.
Yeah, no.
Like literally, like subconsciously, his name is like the most religious name I've ever heard in my life.
I'm not gonna say what I'm not gonna say, but like me, we get along because you too can be a little bit stubborn,
Very stubborn. Not going into law for a reason, Josh.
Not trying to blow up your spot, but birds of a feather, the saying goes. Well, my friends, I think we've talked about Rhode Island enough for today. I hope that you enjoyed our episode. To those of you who are learning a few things for the first time today about our state, hopefully this gives you a little bit of insight about who we are, maybe a little bit more insight as to who we are as hosts as well when we talk about things. But if you get anything out of this episode today, we really want you to hold on to is what we just spoke about in this last part. Hold on to the hope of Jesus Christ. Maybe you're on the fence and you want to hear a little bit more about it. You want to get into a deeper conversation about who Jesus Christ is. Reach out to us. We'd love to talk to you. We have people standing by like literally 24/7 by 365. We have people who are passionate about the gospel. You want to pray with us? We want to pray with you. Reach out. Go to our website, www.temporaryinsanitypodcast.com. Hit up our social media pages. There's so many ways. DM us, email us, however it is that you can get in contact. We will make it a point to talk to you. And tune in every week. Go to our page. Our episodes are up every Friday at noon, as Aiden's going to tell you. We just want to be there for you. If you're hearing the sound of my voice and you decide you want to accept the Lord Jesus Christ as your personal Savior, and you're struggling with how to do that, reach out to us. We will pray that prayer with you. And of course, as always, we want to offer you a Bible on us. We offer that free of charge. That's our gift to you as you make that commitment, because we want to set you up with the ultimate self-help guide. You could buy those books. You could buy the New York Times bestsellers, but the only book that's ever going to get you through is the Word of God, because that is the inspired and infallible journey guide for this life, because it's going to get you through every situation. Well, I think that about does it for today. You had anything else to add, Sierra? Nope. We're good? Well, hopefully we'll have Mr. William McCoy back next week. I think my girl Sierra did a fantastic job today flying solo with me.
Thank you.
She came ready to rock and roll, my friends. So that'll do it. So Aiden's going to close us out. Don't forget to check out his website, www.aidenpereira.com. And we have our new podcast coming out probably next week. We're shooting for next Wednesday to be our first episode of our Bible workshop class on a podcast, which is great. You'll get to go into the Atonement series that we did this past month. Listen, this weekend starts Holy Week. If you're looking for a church to come celebrate Palm Sunday and Easter, hell, if you're looking for a church to come celebrate every Sunday, we're here in North Providence. Come check out Saving Grace Church. You can go to our website, www.savinggrace.church, www.savinggrace.church, to check out more information about who we are. But let's say you're too far. You can, give us a shout. We'll set you up with a church in your area. Or Sierra made a great plug last week. How else can they check us out?
You can go on our Facebook and YouTube and watch us live every Sunday.
Live every Sunday, 10:30 a.m. And if you are in the area and you want to come check us out, you could come to our Bible workshop class in person, 9:30 a.m. in our multi-purpose room. So that'll do it. We appreciate you tuning in this week. We will be back next Friday at noon. Y'all have a blessed weekend, and we will talk to you next week. God bless you all.
Bye.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode. New episodes drop every Friday at noon. Have a question about our faith or the insane times we live in? Go to our website, www.temporaryinsanitypodcast.com, and record a voice message. It may end up on our show. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and our YouTube channel at Temporary Insanity Podcast.